I think for me, I've always said that when I was growing up, I was always looking for someone like me, right? Like I was always looking for like the Puerto Rican girl from Brooklyn in leadership, and I never had it, right? Like I never found it. And then there came a point where I was like, Jess, you have to become it.
Welcome to Real Talk with Real Leaders, inspiration for radical freedom dreamers, a space where we uplift powerful voices, discover deep wisdom, and spark the courage needed to lead in today's sea of uncertainty. Together, we'll reimagine what's possible, one conversation at a time. I'm your host, Dr. Tracey Samone, Queen of Clarity and Care, and your go-to strategist, facilitator, and coach, helping social impact leaders and organizations get unstuck and get things done. Today, we have a fabulous leader lined up, but first, let's anchor down in the Anchor Way. The Anchor Way is a leadership framework designed to help leaders move forward with clarity, connection, cohesion, care, and courage, even in turbulent waters. Let's take a closer look. Think about leadership like a boat. To move through uncertain waters, it needs to be well built, well guided, and well powered. Every boat is built from something. At the foundation of effective leadership are three essential materials. Clarity, a grounded understanding of where you're headed and why it matters. Connection, the ability to build trust, communicate honestly, and stay rooted in relationships. And cohesion, the alignment between your values, your vision, and your daily decisions. This is what effective leadership is built on. Without it, the structure is fragile, no matter how bold your vision or how skilled your team. Aboard every boat are essentials for the journey to help you set direction, carry the work, and guide your people. The first is the compass, your direction. It represents your vision, your priorities, and your sense of purpose. It helps you stay oriented even when conditions around you are shifting. Next is the cargo, the actual work you're responsible for carrying, the programs you run, the commitments you hold, the culture that you're shaping. These are the things you're building, protecting, or transforming through your leadership. Then there's the crew, the people you lead and journey with, your peers, your partners, your team. They depend on you for clarity, direction, and care. And you depend on them to carry the mission forward. Leadership means resourcing and aligning your crew so that you can move forward together. Below the surface, every organization is influenced by the current. These are the external forces like policy shifts, funding pressures, or community needs that shape your course whether you like it or not. You can't control the current, but you can learn how to navigate it. And what propels the boat forward are two internal forces, care and courage. Care is how you lead with humanity. Courage is how you make hard decisions with integrity. Both are necessary to move through resistance and build something real. Every interview in this series is grounded in one or more parts of the Anchor Way, because we believe leadership is not just about vision. It's about structure, systems, and soul. Welcome back, leaders. We have Jessica with us today, and Jessica is my girl. I love Jessica so much. We have had the pleasure of working together for quite some time now. At one point, Jessica was leading me. At another point, I was leading Jessica. And now Jessica and I are we just homegirls, and we just living life and being brilliant together. So, Jessica, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you so much, Tracey Samone. I love you so much, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your platform. A little bit about me. I am co-founder and CEO of America on Tech, which is a national organization focused on providing tech education to students all over the country. Outside of that, I'm also the host of the Behind the Work Show, which is a podcast show focused on really bringing to life the stories of entrepreneurs and talking about the sexy and unsexy parts of success. And outside of that, I am just a girl from Brooklyn who loves to eat good food, travel, listen to music, and have fun with her family and friends.
Yes, yes. All of those things are you. So, Jessica, we're going to jump on into these questions about courage. When we talk about courage, we're talking about boldness, values aligned choices, and risk. I'm going to be honest, Jessica, you are one of the boldest people I have ever met. Like to watch you take up space, is like magical. Like I've been in many rooms with you where you show up fearless, you say the things that need to be said, you're unafraid to show up and to speak for people that don't have a seat at the table. And so I just love the opportunity that we're going to get to have today to kind of hear how that courage shows up for you. So can you tell me first of all, like what courage means to you as a leader and as a just as a human in general?
Yeah, for sure. I think courage for me means always centering what you need to do that is right, that you feel morally called to, no matter what cost is associated with that. I think that, a lot of times when I think about my own journey with courage, I think it's been moments where my philosophies on things have been challenged, or I was presented with an opportunity to do something that was against my personal values, and having to walk away from those things were the moments for me where I feel like I displayed the most courage. So for me, courage is about taking action on doing what is right, even when you know there is something to be lost in the process. But what you keep in the end of it, right? It's not really a loss. It's really you keep your integrity and you keep your moral compass aligned within yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So willingness to walk away knowing that that loss is not really a loss at all. It actually grows and stretches you as a person in a different way that maybe you didn't even know you had in yourself. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
have you
Yeah.
have you ever had that happen? Like where you were like you surprised yourself? Like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, I mean, like in the journey of entrepreneurship, because, I've been like independent of a full-time job for almost 11 years now. And I will say that when you are operating independently, you don't really have a structure, right? Like you're kind of building the structure around you. And I think that, when you're building the structure around you, it's really easy to get swayed and pulled in different directions. And sometimes, especially in the beginning stages of entrepreneurship, when you are just trying to make your ends meet, you're trying to build a reputation, you're trying to build a brand, it is really easy for your judgment to be clouded and for you to make decisions out of a place of scarcity because you're just trying to survive. And so there have been many times over the last decade where I feel like my courage has been tested. One particular time was I'm thinking about like 2020. 2020 was a time where I felt like my judgment was being tested. There were a lot of folks who were being silent among, the things that were going on in Black and Brown communities. And I told myself that this was the time that I was going to speak up, while a lot of other people around me that I thought would speak up, actually stayed very silent. And I know that in the process of that, I had to lead in a certain kind of way that would make people uncomfortable. But I knew that if I didn't say the things that needed to be said, there was going to be a larger cost to the communities that I represent and the communities that I serve. And so lots of moments of courage being tested, but I will say that every single time I've had an opportunity to lean into discomfort and make sure that my courage was prioritized, that I did it. And I can't recall a moment where I regret doing it.
Yeah, I love that. I know that, even alongside courage, sometimes it's like the lingering fear and doubt that shows up. So, how do you move forward? Like when you want to activate the courage, but there's fear and there's doubt kind of talking to you at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, there are moments where I like definitely prioritize courage, and then I look back and I'm like, just should you have done that? Should you have said that? Should you have been the person to like call out the thing that no one wants to call out? And I think in those moments where I come to is that moment has passed because I already did it. And secondly, I ask myself, how would I have felt if I didn't say something? So I ask for myself, like, what is actually lost when I don't speak up, even in the moments of doubt? Because it's as the same way that you lose something when you do speak up, you also lose something when you don't. And so I realized that for me, I was going to overcome my fear and my doubts when I had the opportunity to understand that in perspective and in context, when I don't actually speak truth to power and when I don't, say the thing, or when I don't choose courage, it actually leads to a tremendous amount of value being lost in an exchange that doesn't center, the humanity of the people that I'm fighting for resources for, or the humanity of the staff that's on the ground with me doing the work, or, maybe the friend who is being like, being made fun of by somebody, right? Because it doesn't even have to just be in the professional context. It could also be just defending your homegirl who people are picking on, right? And I think for me, I tell myself, I would often remind myself that the same way you lose something, just like when you don't say something, you also lose something. I mean, when you lose something, sorry, the same way that you lose something when you do say something because it makes people uncomfortable is the same way that you lose something when you don't speak up. And you got to pick which one you actually want to lose. You want to lose something and just keep the status quo, or you want to lose something and know that you lost it for the greater good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that counter narrative, like the idea that something is going to be lost regardless, and like which one matters most to you, which one allows you to show up as your true self and who you are, being
Mhm.
your own integrity. So when it comes to like you out here leading a huge organization that has grown leaps and bounds since its inception. And so like how do you model courage for those that you lead in your organization? What does that look like?
I think for me, I've always said that when I was growing up, I was always looking for someone like me, right? Like I was always looking for like the Puerto Rican girl from Brooklyn in leadership, and I never had it, right? Like I never found it. And then there came a point where I was like, Jess, you have to become it. And so when I decided that I had to become it, I realized that if I'm going to play the role of becoming the person that I always needed, right, then that also means that I have to show up in these spaces authentically, because by default of me showing up authentically is going to give permission to people to feel like they also can show up as themselves. Everyone knows that I am an imperfect human. I have funny humor. I can be a little bit aggressive sometimes. I can also be super passive sometimes, right? It really depends on the day. But I think all of those things that I bring to the table as a full human being outside of being the role of a leader in an organization, I also think is what has allowed me to build trust with my staff, because they know that the difference between someone who is leading and someone who is partnering with them is the difference between someone showing up as who they are and someone who is just trying to get something done. And I think when you are a CEO or you're a founder, you're leading an organization, you got to know that you are not just delegating tasks to people and like being a dictator and telling them what to do and just giving them a vision. Like you got to know that they're also a part of that process with you, and you got to give people insight into how your mind works and how your integrity works and how your value system is aligned so that they can actually get on board with the vision that you do have set out, and not have them feel like they haven't been a part of that process. And the only way that that happens is if you are authentically leading as yourself and giving them the opportunity to see you for what you're trying to accomplish and how you're trying to accomplish with them. Accomplish it with them in partnership. And so that's my philosophy around that.
I love that. I love that. So before we switch gears and talk about your leadership legacy, I do want to talk a little bit about your podcast that you're doing because I feel like like you've shown a ton of courage with America on Tech, but now you are dipping your toe into a whole another arena. And I know that it took courage to show up in that way too. So tell us a little bit about it so that we can check it out.
I really appreciate that. So I did after American Tech turned 10 years old, in November of last year, I took a 2 month sabbatical from work, and it was a board approved sabbatical. And during that time, I was on a balcony in Cartagena, Colombia. And I was just doing some painting on canvases. And I'm a very big spiritual person. So I speak to the ocean, I speak to the universe, I speak to God, right? And I remember asking God, like, what is my next step? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? And do I still love the work that I'm doing after I've left it all on the table for 10 years? And in that moment, a few things became clear to me. The first thing is that I still love what I do with American Tech. And I also have other interests as well, and I was just like, well, what has been some of those interests that have come to you, but you haven't pursued because you haven't had the time or the bandwidth, or you've been afraid because you haven't, wanted to look like you are an unfocused founder or CEO. And I realized that the work of behind the work has always been something I've wanted to do. Like I've always wanted to do the podcast. I've always wanted to do the show. And I will say that that was inspired by my days in Los Angeles. And I also think when I started learning more about, the chakras and my throat chakra, that it really was the moment where I was like, Jess, like you should do this. But I didn't take a bet on myself until the sabbatical. And I heard directly from the ocean. The ocean was like, you got to do this, Jess. I heard directly from God, you got to do this, Jess. And so that is what inspired it. It's just like my desire to really help people unpack the sexy and unsexy parts of success, because I do think that leadership sometimes hides behind smoke and mirrors, and it would be really good for us to demystify the process of how people get to where they are, and not just make it seem like they are just these magical people, that got these opportunities. And granted, I do believe that the powers that be do select certain people to do certain things, but I also know that if these folks actually share their narratives a little bit more, that there are more people that will feel empowered to follow their own paths and really step into their power and become their greatest selves as well.
So speaking of next stages, like you have stepped into one right now with the podcast, but if nothing was holding you back, what else do you see for yourself in your next chapter of leadership? Like if you were to talk to the ocean again, what do you think you would hear?
Yeah, I think that I'm being called right now to create and to build things. There is a part of my artistry that I think hasn't been nurtured. And I think when you're first generation, like your family is really focused on you getting a job. You got to go to school, you got to graduate, you got to get good grades, you got to get a job. That's high paying. And, I danced for many years. A lot of people don't know that, but I danced for many years. I paint. I love culinary. I do a lot of stuff with graphic design, right? And so I think for me, I'm just being called to create and nurture parts of, I guess, the 17-year-old, 14-year-old, 9-year-old Jessica that had all of this creativity within her that no one said you can do something with this. And I want that to be a part of my leadership legacy, because I see that as interconnected with my own healing, but also the ways in which I also expand my own potential in the world. And I've been doing so much of it. I went this summer to Paris to take culinary classes at Le Cordon Bleu. I started building my own podcast studio in my house, and I've been doing it from scratch. I've been creating a lot of content on like food that I really like, and restaurants that I frequented when I was not frequented, but that I visited when I was in Europe. And so I'm just being called to create. And I think my leadership legacy is gonna be around building systems for our kingdom and about making sure that whatever I do moves culture forward. And I see all of these things that I'm doing as part of that. And I hope that what people get about that, when I'm 6 feet under, because I don't want to be morbid, but that is inevitable, right? Is that they say that Jessica really just left it all on the table and she had nothing else to give the earth because she just left it all there.
Yeah, that is my hope too, Jessica. And I'm just so blown away by you and your amazingness and how you're showing up in the world. It's so inspiring. And I can't wait to see more of what you create, your art. And I mean, I didn't know you dance, so I like to dance too. So we're gonna have to go dance. And I like to paint. I don't know if you can see in the back, I've started painting too. I was like, oh my goodness, like something has unlocked to me, and I've been putting paint to canvas every week now. So maybe we're gonna have to get us a painting and dancing date going sometime.
Real soon.
Especially since AOT is now in the A, and you
I
know
know.
Atlanta.
Now that Atlanta, I know. Now that we're in Atlanta, we can definitely do that stuff together.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. It was so many great nuggets in here today, and I just can't wait for the people to see it and to check out your podcast. All right, leaders, we appreciate you showing up this Friday. I'm Dr. Tracey Samone, Queen of Clarity and Care, your go-to strategist, facilitator, and coach, helping you get unstuck, get things done, so you can build a legacy that lasts. And we will see you next Friday. Bye. Thank you for joining us for Real Talk with Real Leaders, Inspiration for Radical Freedom Dreamers. This space is here to remind you that your story, your vision, and your leadership are part of reimagining what's possible. If you're a leader ready to share your voice, scan the QR code on the screen to apply to be featured. Together, we're fueling radical freedom dreamers, leaders daring to chart new courses for our communities and our world. Until next time, keep anchoring, keep leading,